Hey friends, it's Gloria and welcome back to another video. Better late than never, but this is going to be my February reading wrap up. All the books that I read in the month of February. I know I'm a little late, but life is lifing. I only have 7 books to talk about, but the books that I do have to talk about, I have a lot of opinions, so we'll see how much I ramble. But I also read so few because a few of these books are longer, and then I also read the first chapter of 35 historical fiction books, which in itself is probably a whole book, and I'll link that video above and below. That was a big project in February. Let's get into books. I have 3 sections. I have Little Women adjacent, female-focused historical fiction, and Harry Potter fan fiction. We'll get into that when we get into that. So I have 3 sections. Let's start with the Little Women stuff. So I read Little Women probably 2 or 3 years ago and absolutely loved my time with that one. It was so fun. I also loved all of the movie and TV and film adaptations that there are. And I'm a completionist and wanting to finish series, but I put this off for a while. I picked up Little Men. You can see the title there, but this is a cute little old book that I believe was published in the 1930s that I found for 25 cents. This is a continuation set several years after the events of Little Women, and we follow Jo March, she's not March anymore, Jo and her husband, and this school for children that they run, particularly for boys. This is mostly a story of little adventures and anecdotes of all of the different boys in their lives. It felt very wholesome and classic and like little lessons learned, very character focused, very like young children. It felt almost younger than what Little Women was. I liked it, I enjoyed it. I don't see myself rereading it. Like I definitely see myself rereading Little Women in years to come, but I don't think that I would pick these up. But I also wouldn't not recommend these to those that want the whole picture of what Louisa May Alcott was writing. I actually much preferred Jo's Boys, which, spoiler, I read that in March, to Little Men, but you need to read this book in order to complete that one. I'm glad I'm finishing that series this year and checking that box, but it wasn't at all emotionally impacting and interesting enough as Little Women was for me. Then I picked up March by Geraldine Brooks. I guess I'm on a Little Women world kick this year because I read Marmee in January and loved that. That is a Little Women retelling told through diary entries from Marmee, the mother figure in Little Women, her perspective of the events of that story, and I loved it. It was so good. And I was like, wait, but this is the same thing, but from the father's perspective and his time during the Civil War. He's not very much in the original Little Women story, so this is like, what was he up to while that was happening? This is definitely a lot more literary. This won the 2006 Pulitzer Prize. Overall, I liked this book, even though it was very heavy and very hard and very sad. And it did taint, no, I shouldn't say taint, that's too strong of a word, but it did alter my feelings a little bit, or it just changed my experience with the Little Women world and the wholesomeness of it. This is obviously tied to that original classic, but it could be a standalone novel just about a man's experience during the Civil War. It's a book about war and the atrocities seen during the Civil War and slavery, and then dealing with PTSD. He's a very imperfect man. He writes these journal entries, diary entries of his life, his time during the war, as well as some stories and anecdotes before the war, how he met his wife, and then what went down during the events of Little Women and what he was up to, which was basically living on a plantation and teaching slaves. He was originally an army chaplain and then was sent to educate some people. I think if you're a big fan of Little Women and the world, this would add to your reading, but it's not that like sweet wholesomeness. It's very melancholy and dark and sad, and there's some things that, you know, the author is taking liberties with. People aren't perfect, so definitely this man could have made some bad decisions, but there's themes of potentially adultery and other kind of stuff that is hinted at that you're like, So, like the book, didn't love the book. Next, moving on to female-focused historical fiction. Didn't mean to, but I read 3 books that all had very strong female characters. So the first one is The Arctic Fury by Greer McAllister. This is one that I wanted to pick up because on my winter TBR for a few years now. I've heard great things. I gave this one 2.75, 3 stars. Like, liked it, but didn't love it, as I usually am with my books. I had a hard time with the main character and really caring about her, understanding the reason why certain events happened. This is a book about females going on an Arctic voyage to find some missing men, and it's all hush hush. It was all done without anyone knowing, and there's kind of this like imposing evil man and woman that are like forcing them to do stuff, and you don't know why. Like, I still didn't understand the full picture of why certain secrets were kept and why things weren't fully revealed. The main woman who's leading this expedition is also on trial after the expedition for murder of several women on this expedition that they went to. I feel like I've said the word expedition too much. But anyways, it was okay. It was definitely a gritty survival story, unlikable, morally great characters, this like tension, and I just found it to be a little lackluster for me in terms of actually caring for the character. Plot was interesting enough. I like a little courtroom drama. I like the survival aspects of the Arctic and like feeling the winteriness and the harshness of it. Again, it all came down to the character, and I was like, I don't know you. I don't care about you. Why did you do the things that you did? That was not clear. I think that was the fault of the author for just not making that strong enough. Then I read Eleanor of Avignon by Elizabeth de Lazier. This was recommended by a Book Olive as well as Brittany from Literary Smitten, and I think that this definitely could have a big readership. This is set in the 1300s in Avignon, France, and we follow a young woman named Eleanor who is an herbalist and a midwife. She works with the Pope's physician and is a midwife to the Queen, all in the events of the Black Plague breaking out in Europe. And there's definitely themes of like corrupted church, evil people trying to blame her as a witch for her healing powers. There's lots of death and destruction going on around them. There's very heavy medical content because she's learning to be a physician and wants to be. There's a little bit of romance, but it's like barely there. I found it very surfacey, that's not the right word, but it was just like high level over everything, and I never felt like the meat of the story, or I didn't like grab onto her that strongly either. Maybe it's because this is quite a short read, under 300 pages. So I think that definitely lends to why it wasn't as meaty for me, is because there just wasn't that much meat to it. You get the events, you follow her story, you follow what happens to her in a short amount of time, but there just wasn't quite enough to sink my teeth into. All that to say, very enjoyable if you like strong female characters, medical kind of stories. I like that this was set in a time and a place that I just haven't read from before when it comes to historical fiction, so definitely would recommend on that front. Then my favorite out of this bunch of historical fiction was The Eights by Joanna Miller. This was an anticipated release of mine, and I overall really enjoyed my time too. A few issues I had with it personally, but I think it was a good book. Very female friendship focused, which was so fun to read about. We are set in Oxford right after World War I, and we follow the first group of women that go attend Oxford as students that are like officially accepted into the school program, and different perspectives from all of these women, their secrets, their pasts, their histories, and their friendships coming together. Little bits of romance here and there. I read the advanced ebook of it, and I wish I knew that there was a glossary in the end because that would have helped me, because the author just really throws you in the deep end in terms of the lingo and the language of Oxford itself, and it's very British, very much set on the college campus, very university type language, all about of the different tests and the classes and the programs and this and that and the other. It took me a little bit to figure out what's going on, and you switch perspectives all the time, like almost paragraph from paragraph, or sometimes shifting perspectives, not necessarily even chapter to chapter. That was also a little bit like, okay, who are we talking about here? That pacing of it, I feel like could have been a little bit better, but great female friendship, wonderful sense of place. I really feel like I understand Oxford now. You're also getting people reeling after World War I. There was a couple good twists and turns that I kind of saw coming, but still was enjoyable when those came about in the story. Enjoyed my time with this one. Would definitely recommend for people that love British, Oxford, university setting, female friendship, strong female characters, the suffrage movement, dealing with the war, that kind of stuff. Now, let's talk about some Harry Potter fan fiction. Never thought I would read this, but I just couldn't help myself. I'm a really big Harry Potter fan. I only read them as an adult. When I was commuting to college, I needed audiobooks, and I went through the whole Harry Potter series and absolutely loved my time with it. And then I worked for a social media agency after college where I created Harry Potter content, because our client was the Warner Brothers Studios of London that holds all of the Harry Potter movie sets. And so I was so seeped in like Harry Potter movie lore and just content in general. And then when my husband and I were dating, we also listened to all the audiobooks again together, which was really fun. And I just have very fond memories of that whole Harry Potter magical world, like so many people do. I also wasn't allowed to read them as a kid because like demon magic, possession, witches are evil, that kind of thing. But as an adult, had a great time. Anyways, I heard about Manacled by Sen Lin Yu. This is a fan fiction that came out a couple years ago. When I heard people talk about it, primarily Becca Books and Joe, and then I've seen a few people on my Goodreads that I follow rate it, like loving it, but I'm like, I don't read dark romance. That's just not me. I don't read very steamy things. Also, like, dark romance is just doesn't sound interesting to me, because I much prefer sweet, romantic, wholesome romance rather than like stuff. But I can't fault that this book was addicting. It was like drugs. It has every content warning imaginable. If you are a sensitive reader, I would never recommend this book. This is very much like the blaring reader discretion advised content. I just had to see what all the fuss was about. In hindsight, I don't regret reading it, but I think it did alter my perception of the Harry Potter world, because this was pretty good too. There are a lot of issues with the book. It is almost a 1,000-page fanfiction novel that is very repetitive in certain parts. We have Draco and Hermione. The events start after the Ministry of Magic battle in book 5. And so it's as if book 6 and 7 never happened, and instead we are in the war. There's 2 timelines. There's the war has ended, Harry Potter has died, Voldemort is the evil ruler of them all, and there is a repopulation effort, and so Hermione is the sex slave to Draco Malfoy. And then there's a previous timeline where we get the events leading up to that of what happened in the last years of the war, and so you're very much seeped into the Order of the Phoenix and Hermione's role and what's going down as we were coming up to the end of the war. All of that was really good. It was like so seeped in Harry Potter, and this book is actually being traditionally published, and all of the Harry Potterness is taken out. I would absolutely not enjoy this for a minute if it wasn't already seeped in the Harry Potter world that I love so much and that I'm familiar with. That's the only reason why this was enjoyable for me. And the romance is dark, and there's some messed up things and terrible content stuff that happens. It's also so seeped in war violence. That's a big thing. Almost in anything, it's just incredibly violent and gory and just harsh. It's like very, very adult Harry Potter. So I read it and I liked it, and it was like drugs, and I read a 1,000-page book in basically 3 days because it was all consuming. All that to say, would I recommend this? Very easily? Absolutely not. But if you're a Harry Potter fan and you like romance and you are not a super sensitive reader and can handle hard content, then maybe. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any specific questions though. Happy to chat about it. I'm actually very wanting to chat to people about this book because I'm just so curious what they think. Anyways, that addictive reading experience led me to then pick up Draco Malfoy and the something ordeal of falling in love. This could have been amazing. This could have been amazing. This was so fun for most of the book. This is pure like happy, fun, sweet rom-com that was just a hootin' time. Loved it, except the sexual content was so jarring to me. Yeah, I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot. It just turned from like sweet fun rom-com to like pure smut porno, and it was just very jarring, but it is also skippable, I guess. It's at the end of the book. It's a very, very, very slow burn book, and that sexual content, I just wish it wasn't there, or it wasn't that explicit because it was just so much. But the actual story was so fun, and we are set 15 years after the events of Harry Potter end, and Hermione's this like super smart genius professor. Draco Malfoy is an Auror in the Ministry of Magic. Someone is wanting to hurt Hermione, and so he's sent to be her bodyguard, and they are spending time together. It's enemies to lovers, slow burn, so sweet, so fun. I loved their magical, adventurous escapades that they go on and the situations that they're put in, and it was, again, so cute, except for the sexual content. And the sexual content is hinted at in the book. I will say it has that like very British crudeness of it. I don't know if that makes sense. Like in certain movies it's there. I'm trying to think of the movies that have that. There's this romance to it, but then it just goes a step further than I'm comfortable with and that I would like, and just kind of wish it wasn't there. Like I'd rather we be alluded to events than like just see them happening. That is very much what I wished for this book. So would I recommend? Yes, more likely recommend this because if you are a sensitive reader to sexual content, those parts are skippable. But also, I don't know, reader discretion also advised. I will say the second one was way better written. Like the author is actually a stronger writer in terms of her character development and all of that. With Manacled, it was quite clunky, very repetitive, and Manacled, I forgot to say, very obsessive, possessive love that just is super intense. And in this Draco Malfoy one, it's just more sweet fun rom-com and like I don't want to like you but I'm starting to like you, and that was pretty sweet. And I would say Manacled, honestly, the sexual content in there, even though some of it is very hard, it wasn't as explicit as you might think. It was there, but honestly some of Emily Henry's books that I've read have more explicit sexual content than even Manacled did, in my opinion. The Draco Malfoy one was the most explicit sexual content I've ever read anywhere. And this one actually is also being traditionally published and released this year. The Irresistible Urge or something, this is what it's going to be published. Again, also with all the Harry Potter things removed, which I would not enjoy at all or have any care to read. I'm also curious how it will be edited out, but I think it'll just be like magical smut. Anyways, that is my rambly thoughts on this fan fiction. Really my first experience, well, not my first experience. I've read Pride and Prejudice fan fiction and I've liked it. I've read Little Women fan fiction and have loved it, and now I've read Harry Potter fan fiction and I can't say I've loved it, but I did really have fun with it. Even though it has content I didn't also love, but I did have a really good time. And in terms of readability, it was so fun and addicting to read. Those are the books that I read in the month of February. Let me know what you think of my thoughts. Any of these books sound appealing to you? Would you ever pick up Harry Potter fan fiction? Let me know. And thank you so much for spending some time today with me, and I will see you guys in another book video soon. Bye.